Hi guys, it's Dynaman here again. I'm just doing a video. It's a review of the powermac G5 which I've just got. I'll go through the specs with you and also the upgrades I plan on doing on this machine, and also what's different about this machine from the earlier machines, because this is a late 2005 model and it goes into 2006 as well as this model. They're a very good machine for the money. I bought this for 50 quid, which is a steal in my opinion, for such a good looking machine, and they are still quite powerful. The maximum operating system on these though is Leopard. That's as high as you can go. Then they brought Snow Leopard out, which was Intel based, and that's when all support dropped on this. It started fading out after that, and the programs got lesser and lesser. But there are still plenty of good programs left for these machines, Balance. You can still do video editing on them. You might not be able to use the next generation AVC or whatever it is, HD. They're not compatible with that, I don't think. But they're still good for video editing in 1080p or 720p. I'm not sure which one, but they're still good for video editing. And also they're still good for doing photos editing as well, and also music. People still use these, believe it or not, for music editing, for making music. So it's still a good machine. There's a lot of ports on them you can still use, so there you go, lads. Now I'll just go through why I got this machine and what I plan on doing to it. First off, if you've watched any of my other videos, I do have a Mac Pro. But before I had the Mac Pro, I've had two Mac Pros. I've had a 2008, which I've got now, and I've got I had an earlier one, which is a 2006 model. I bought that, but it had to come from Spain, believe it or not. I bought it, and it took it took a week for it to come all the way from Spain, but I got it for 600 quid, that machine, because when I got it, it was in a terrible state. The processor heatsink was loose on it. The cage what actually holds the memory was loose. It had a big dent where the optical drives go, so I wouldn't suggest getting one what's going to come all that way from somewhere like Spain. I wouldn't suggest it. You get one from anywhere abroad, because it's a bit too far for these machines to come. And if you've ever seen the damage what's caused on these machines, usually these handles here sply out. They're dropped and they sply out and they look a mess. So I think it's best to get one locally if you can get one. I got my Mac Pro from Preston, and I got this one from Manchester. I went to pick them both up, and they're still both very good machines. And there's slight damage on this, scuff marks where it's been used, but you can expect that. The machine's nearly 7-year-old now, so, but they're still quite a capable machine. So I'll now go through the specs on this machine, lads. First off, I'm going to go what's on the inside, because we've got the camera set up to show you that, and then we'll go on what's on the outside. This model is a late model, so we'll go through what's different in this one from the earlier versions. If you're ever going to get a G5 though, I suggest you don't go for the liquid cooled models, because if they leak, it wrecks your power supply, and also it can wreck your logic board as well, which can be very expensive to replace. Even second-hand units, see what it does is it leaks the coolant and it goes on to the processors and damages them, and they're wiped out, and you're talking a lot of money just for the processor and the pump unit, the liquid cooling unit what's on them. So I suggest you go for one of these. This is an air-cooled model. It's a dual 2 GHz machine. The actual there's one processor in this, but it's got 2 cores on it, so it's a dual core still, but it's only one processor. air cooled, so I'm not going to have any trouble with leaks or anything. So there you go, lads. I'll now open the case up and show you what's inside. It's quite easy to do on these. There's a little latch on the side, just like a Mac Pro. You lift it up and you grab hold of the sides there, and the panel comes off. This is actually, believe it or not, still got the plastic on. From where it was new, still got it on. I'll leave that on, doesn't matter. Usually people take this off, but it's still on from new. That's amazing. Little wrapper there, you pull that up and you peel it off, it's still there after all these years. So there you go, that's the outer door. And also, if you look on the inside of these, it's got a little illustration here which tells you how to remove the two fans to get to the memory. So it's another little neat feature what they put on these. I think that's upside down. Yeah, that's the right way. Bring it closer there, lads. And it goes through the stages. From 1 to 2 to 3, 4, 5 and then 6. How to install memory and how to, how you do it. That's quite handy. So, there you go, lads. Nice big chunk of aluminium that. Still in good nick as well, that does. So, there you go. Also, nice big Apple logo there. Right, this is now the internals of the G5. And as you can see, it's a very nice machine. A very nice machine. That's why I got this. I know it's an old model, but I just love the architecture, the way it's been made, and the design. It's beautiful. So, what have we got on the inside? First off, this bay here has your optical driving. This is a DVD writer, CD writer, but it's got an IDE connection on. It's not SATA, it's IDE. So that's your optical drive compartment there, lads. And moving on to this compartment, that's where you put your SATA drives. These were the first machines to use the SATAs. You've got two bays. Each bay is occupied, as you can see. There's two hard disk drives in here, and also there at the side there's a little plate here, plastic plate, that usually has the little screws in which you put in the lower drive, because usually these machines come in one drive, so they left the screws in there so you could install the next drive at the bottom, which is a nice little feature. It's built into the case so you don't lose them. I'm coming on to this section here. Nice looking section. There's a baffle on here, believe it or not, an air baffle. This is to make the air go into the processors better. That's why it's there. And also it directs air as well into the graphics card, because it's got a slight indent. So it forces air through the graphics card as well. So we'll take the baffle off now. Believe it or not, you can actually run these machines with the baffle on and take the door off. You can run like that perfectly. But if you take the baffle off while it's running, you get a big red light and it won't work, it'll shut down. So that's a safety feature. Take this off, it'll shut down. Leave it on, it'll run with the door off. So that's another nice little feature on these machines. So you can actually run them and look at the architecture as well while it's running, which is cool. A bit like a modern PC with its window where you can see the process and everything. So there you go, lads. It was ahead of its time, So I'll take the air baffle off now. It just comes off like that. So that's the air baffle off. What's in here? Right. This is your big cover, which is covering the processor, or processors if you've got the later. Well, this is a later machine, but if you've got the quad 2.5, you've still got the same cover as this. You can always tell the later models. We've got one G5 on there, big massive cover. That gives you a hint that it's a later one. You're better off going for the later ones. I'll explain that in a minute. Also, the later ones have a full plastic cover here at the side, Now the earlier ones, you could actually see the fans, and also the air baffle used to have a little indent to drive the air into the unit, into the processor unit. So there we go, lads. This is quite easy to remove as well. If you want to get to the memory, just pull it out like that, and it comes out. There you go. That's the two fans. What are in the unit? That is the fan connector. There's no wire, messy wires, just that connector there which slots into the motherboard when you push it back in. Two fans. Now I think these are 90mm fans, not 120s, are 90mm. There's two of them. Now on the earlier ones, if you had one processor, you only used to have one fan, and this one was missing, so it looked a bit bare. So then two fans is cool. Moving on, we'll put that down there. In here, this is where your RAM goes. Alright, there we've got a memory stick and another memory stick there. This one will take 8 memory modules of DDR2, 5300s, 533 chips in. That's the speed 533 MHz to run at. So if you look down there, that's the battery. It's not like the old one which had like a little A battery. It's got a proper one like a PC, well, like the normal PCs have in it. Which are these? These are the batteries now, which these take. The later ones, 2005 later ones. You could put 8 in. You can actually get 4 gig sticks for these, believe it or not. You can take it up to 32 gig. But I wouldn't do that with this dual 2.0 2 GHz mod. I wouldn't do it with that because it's not worth it. It'd be worth it on the 2.5 and maybe the 2.3. It does help a lot having more memory in, and memory's pretty cheap for these as well. But there's one difference from the early ones. The earlier G5s used DDR memory, not DDR2, DDR, and that's where it changes in these. These use DDR2 memory, which is twice as fast as DDR memory. So that's why I suggest you go for the later one. If you're going to get one of these beasts, get the later one, because you can put DDR2 memory in, and it's 533 MHz memory, so it runs pretty fast from the early one, which was only restricted to 400. You can only go to 400 MHz on the early ones, whereas these go to 533 MHz. And that was before they brought out the Mac Pro. They brought out the Mac Pro after this, that used DDR as well, DDR2, but that used 667 MHz memory, so it went up a step as well. So this was the last G5 to come out before the before the Mac Pros came out. So these have got DDR2 memory in them. It's 533 MHz. So now we're going to move up and show you the graphics card. Right, here is your graphics card. The graphics card in here is an NVIDIA 6600 LE with 128 megs of VRAM on. They did do a 256 meg one, but I think they used that in the dual 2-core, well, quad-core 2.5 GHz mod. They used the 256 memory one. These are pretty good cards for doing everyday graphics and stuff. But the thing with these is, which isn't with the earlier ones are PCI-X. Believe it or not, these have PCI Express. Yes, PCI Express, which is now being used in most computers. And it's PCI Express 1.1, I think it is. So the maximum speed on the card, I think, is 2.5 gigatixels in these, and that is the same as the Mac Pro 2006, that used the same speed of PCI Express, which was 1.1 if I'm not mistaken. So also there's another 3 lines in there, and they're all PCI Express as well. But I think they're only PCI Express 4 or 8. Oh, sorry. The lane's speed runs at 4 times and 8 times, but the bottom one runs at X16 times. Now these machines, they actually brought out a graphics card in 2006, I think it was, and it was called the NVIDIA, the ATI X1900 GT, and the GTX, I think, 256, and they brought out a 512 one. The 512 will fit in the Mac Pros. They made one for these, believe it or not, and it had 256 megs of VRAM, and it was the GT, it was the X1900 GT ATI card, and that got 256 meg of VRAM, and it will work in this because it was specifically made for this machine, believe it or not. So, and the PCI Express cards, you can't use them in the earlier ones because they're only PCIX and PCI, so they had an AGP slot in them as well, the earlier ones, so, and it was 8 times, so there's another bit of history. These are PCI Express X16, bottom one, and you can use one of these X1900s in here, or you can use the Quadro, NVIDIA Quadro 4500. That will go in here as well with 512 megs of VRAM. I'm not sure if you can flash the X1900, the 512 meg one, to work in these. I'm not sure, but anyway. So there you go, lads. I suggest you get a later model because they're a lot better. Also, these don't use a pencil, but well, they don't use like an AA battery. You use a little pencil, well, little battery. I'll just show you. Well, so if you're going to get one of these, lads, I suggest you go for the 2.3 or the 2 GHz one. Don't go for the liquid cool one if you can help it. They're prone for leaks, even the later ones can leak. So you have to keep checking on them. You can't take this cover off though on the later ones. It's got plastic piece on it to stop you getting it off. You can get it off, but you have to snap this plastic bit to get it off to check the coolant isn't leaking. You'll usually notice a little green blob on the lower part of the chassis, or a drip on the foot where it's coming out and leaking. You won't be able to see it straight away. It usually drips around the back, so you've no chance of seeing it before it actually fails. So there you go, lads. We'll go around the back now of the machine, and we'll describe the ports on the back and take it from there. We'll put this back in. It's quite easy to do. Just slide it into a little slot, push it in, and it's in. So there you go. Just zoom out. Right, put the air deflector back on now. Quite easy to do. It's got 3 little lugs on it as well. You can just tell it that the air baffle's on these little sensors at the bottom. There we go, that air baffle's now back in. Put the door back on. That's how you lock it as well. Right, here's the back of the machine. This part is where you put your cards. I'm not going to zoom out to the top, you don't need to see that. There's your 2 fans, like the earlier ones. But on these, this is where it gets different again. We'll just zoom in. Right. 2 gigabit Ethernet ports, gigabit. So there's 2 of them. Firewire 800, Firewire 400, 2 TOS links, audio in and out, and 3 USBs. The earlier ones only had 2. These have 3 on the back, USB 2s. Another way you can tell a later model, lads, you notice there's something missing on here. Well, the earlier ones had 2 little dongles at the top, one for your Wi-Fi and one for your Bluetooth, which you put in. These don't have them because this strip here is the actual aerial for Bluetooth and wireless. So there you go, lads, that's how you tell them apart. The later ones, they have this grey strip running down the side at the back of the latch. Right, the latch here, if you want to lock this machine so nobody can get into it, lift the latch up, and under here is a little lever. Little lever under here. It's up there now, so you can shut that without locking it. So lock it, lift it up, pull that lever down, push that in, and then that comes through the slot. So you can put a little padlock on there to stop anybody getting into your machine. There you go, lads. Put that back up. There you go. Now, another thing you can do with these, which I've done, the DVI port. Say you've got a modern telly, an HDMI one, you can get these adapters. It's DVI to HDMI, so that's what I use. So I can plug it into my HD telly, a Samsung. It works very well, this little device. The one on my Mac Pro, I've actually got a lead for, which is a lead from DVI to HDMI. You can get them if you look on eBay, the leads, so you don't have to mess with this. You just have a cable here which says DVI, and the one that goes up to the telly's got HDMI on the end. So there you go, lads, that's another little tip. You want to use these on a HD telly, get one of these. This is different as well, where the lead goes. The earlier ones are the normal kettle lead. These have a square lead which goes in, and it's slightly different as well. The pins are different on it. Try and get a shot of that. Yeah, if you look, it's a square connector, and it's got special pins as well which don't match up with a kettle lead. There's another tip, lad, if you get one of these, make sure you get the power lead as well with it. I think they might be quite tricky to get hold of. With this I did get the power lead, so I'm alright, so I can use that. I'll be doing another video soon, and an upgrade I'll be doing. I've given you a little clue in this video of what it might be. See if you can guess what it is, but it's going to be in here very soon. So that'll be the next video of me installing it, so just drop a message and say what you think it is, lads. So there you go, that's my review of the Apple PowerMac G5. I'm very happy with it for 50 quid. It's a steal. What a machine. Beautiful architecture, nice to have in your collection if you collect these Macs, but I suggest you don't go for the liquid cooling ones. They're a lot more money, and you have to keep an eye out for leaks as well. That'll be on my mind all the time if it's leaking or not. And to repair them's a pretty messy job as well. If you want to repair one, you know, overhaul it. Some people say to overhaul them every 6 months, these liquid cool ones. Replace the seals and everything in them to stop them leaking. That's why I went for the air cool one. You're not messing about with them. But believe it or not, these, when you look at the power supply at the bottom, there's a little sticker on them which says watch out for leaks. They must have done that with all of them. The 2.3 and the 2 and the 2.5 liquid cool one. Obviously you need it for that one, but you're not going to get a leak in these because it's air cooled. So there you go, lads. That's just my thoughts. Get the air cool one, there's less chance of it going wrong because you've no leaks to worry about. So there you go. So lads, I hope you've enjoyed this video on my review of the PowerMac G5. And just a few things about the specs on it, what are different from the earlier ones. So if you're going to get one of these lads, I'd go for the later one because they're a lot speedier. DDR2 memory in them, PCI Express, go for it. 50 quid, it's a steal. You can get them for even cheaper than that if you look around. So there you go guys, that's my review of the PowerMac G5, and it's Dynaman saying bye for now.